Unit 4. Business operating costs. Each company bears business operating costs, for example for the purchase of equipment, materials, services, payrolls, etc. Here below, the costs arising from legal obligations are presented. In terms of accounting, the following criteria apply to classify the costs. Material costs, raw materials, electricity, stationery and the like. Costs of services, production of products, transport, rent, advertising and the like. Depreciation, equipment, vehicles, facilities, etc. A company bears fixed and variable costs. The fixed ones, such as electricity, the internet, telecommunications, utilities, depreciation, licenses, subscriptions etc., remain permanent. The variable ones are changing proportionally to the volume of operations. These include direct or indirect costs associated with a product, such as the cost of raw materials. A sole proprietor is obliged to pay a social security contribution to the tax office monthly. This includes pension and disability insurance, health insurance, unemployment insurance, and maternity leave. These transfers are payable by the 20th day of the month for the previous month, never in advance. During the first 2 years following the establishment, it is possible to obtain relief for pension and disability insurance contributions, 50% during the first year and 30% during the second year. In March 2018, monthly contributions, excluding tax relief, amounted to a minimum of €372.91. The basis is determined as 60% of the average gross salary of the previous year in the RS, calculated to the monthly level. A supplementary sole proprietor is obliged to pay a social security contribution in the total amount of €67.38 by the 15th day of the month for the previous month, regardless of the actual number of days of activity in the previous month. Taxpayers pay a monthly contribution for the pension and disability insurance, PIS, by the 15th of the month for the previous month. The social security transfer paid by a supplementary sole proprietor includes the following: pension and disability insurance, and health insurance. The social security costs of company members who are managers without an employee status are charged in the same way as for sole proprietors. However, in their case, the contribution calculation basis is determined based on 75% of the average Slovenian gross salary for the previous year calculated on the monthly level. In March 2018, this amount was at €454.01. Employees in private sector are entitled to salaries, transport cost reimbursements and catering allowances during work. Once a year, they are entitled to a holiday allowance. Salary is agreed in the context of a contract of employment. In some industries, there are collective agreements ensuring a minimum level of workers' rights. The minimal salary is defined by law. For 2018, the minimum salary is €842.79 gross or €638.42 net. Regardless of the amount of salary, social security contributions shall be accounted for, namely, social security contributions payable from gross wages in the total amount of 22.10% and employers' contributions payable on gross earnings in the total amount of 16.10%. Example, for an employee receiving a gross salary of €1,000, the company pays social security contributions, in addition, making the total amount of €1,161. The employee is also entitled to catering and transport allowances, which cannot be determined in absolute terms. It is important to know that these two amounts are not taxed. The cost of accounting depends on the type of service, company size, number of employees, etc. There are plenty of providers available on the market, so it is important to opt for a service appropriate for their business. For a small company, the expected price for a reliable accounting service is at €150 per month. Incorrect accounting may lead to poor business results or, worse, acting contrary to the law, which in turn can have a negative effect on one's credit rating at one's bank and can cause difficulties, for example, when applying for a loan. One may even pay a fine consequently. With accounting, the price should not be the essential criterion of choice of an accountant. Before registering a company, its business address and head office in Slovenia shall be decided upon. This can be done by renting an office or hiring a virtual one. Business premises costs vary depending on the type, quality and location, for example for an office of 20 square meters ranging from €200 upwards in the capital of Slovenia in March 2018. Virtual offices costs ranged from €25 to €270 per month, March 2018, depending on the provider, location and scope of services. Please check and compare the two examples of business costs presented. The first table shows the indicative costs of a limited liability company without employees, while the other one shows the indicative cost of the same company with one employed person. But beware. It's just a case. You can only calculate operating costs more precisely after obtaining all relevant information from the investor, data on the number of employees, number of received and issued invoices per month and similar. And of course, not all costs are involved in these calculations, as the tables does not include the cost of products and services needed for the company's products. In addition to a regular contract of employment, other forms of employment are possible, such as subcontracting, a copyright contract, student service. Any entrepreneur should be aware of benefits, limitations and obligations specific to each particular form. Please see more on different types of employment in Module 5.